Hey, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Cabbage Coins podcast. I'm excited about today's podcast because this is the first guest that we have, which is just a true bona fide collector of U.S. coins. So, Jadon Dannehl, welcome to the podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into coin collecting.
Yeah, I started off getting into coin collecting actually initially through metal detecting. I had an aunt and uncle who they had done it in the 90s, early 2000s, and as a kid, I got really interested in that. And when I couldn't find many coins, because I was pretty new to the hobby, I started wanting to buy them instead. So I started going to my local coin store, looking online, and got really into the Indian head scent series. From there, discovered the Flying Eagle scent. I was just blown away by the design. I just thought it was so unique, so different, and so short-lived, and that kind of slowly spiraled the obsession of searching down all the different varieties and trying to eventually put together a top-rated set.
Yeah. So Jadon reached out to me through Instagram. I was looking specifically for a guest to talk about PCGS registry sets. So for those that don't know, we're going to take a look a lot about this here just in a second. But PCGS, which is one of the main grading services and certification services for U.S. coins, they do a particular thing where they have what's known as registry sets. And you can take a particular series of U.S. coins and you can build a set and compete against other collectors for coins within that set. And you're given awarded points based on the the quality of the coin, what the grade is of the coin. You earn more points. And it's a great way to obviously create some competition within the space and for collectors. And it also, I think, drives a lot of the market for U.S. coins and specifically for high grade examples. And so dealers and collectors alike, they get together at the large major shows, and folks like Jadon are walking the floor trying to find the particular coin they need to add to their PCGS registry set in order to increase the overall score of the set. And I wanted to talk specifically to somebody who was in the top 5 of the registry sets for a particular type of series. And this is going to be the first of 2 episodes. There was another gentleman who has agreed to do an episode as well. So we're going to do that here in a couple of weeks. But Jadon reached out and he's built one of the top 5 finest of all time for the Flying Eagle Cents complete variety set for circulation strikes from 1856 to 1858. So what got you interested in registry set building? And you mentioned a little bit about the coin, but any other particular reason why you chose Flying Indian Cents? Flying Eagle Cents, not Flying Indian Cents.
It's okay. That's actually a common listen. Yeah. Specifically with the varieties, I initially started with the set registry. I just was using the PCGS website to add inventory. And from there, that's where I discovered you could actually put together a set. So once I started looking at some of the other sets people have put together, I was really impressed by seeing some of the Flying Eagle scents. And I noticed that it was somewhat of an unattainable set because there's only 20 coins in the entire set. And I already recognized so many of the varieties that I had already accumulated just through cherry picking and finding things. And that really then drove me to go search for the other ones that I didn't have originally.
Interesting. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to give people kind of an intro or allow them to take a look at this kind of early on. Usually we would talk a little bit more before we get into some of the visuals, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. Okay, so what I'm on here is I'm on the main page for the Flying Eagle Cents complete variety set circulation strikes. We could actually take a look at what the set is composed of. We'll do that here in just a second. There's 20 required coins for this set. So, I mean, if you guys can see, this is kind of like the whole, it's like Pokemon, like collecting them all. Like you got to try to build the entire set. And so there's an objective here. It's very similar to the old Whitman folders that everybody kind of grew up on, having little folders of dimes that they plug into the album and you're trying to complete every single one. This is a similar concept, but it's all digital. It's all on the PCGS website. And there's a lot of, there's scoring involved and there's points involved. And so if we looked here, Jadon has Dannehl's Eagles, and this is the number 5 all-time finest from all periods of time collection and set. We also have the current finest kind of going down, and looks like there's 17 sets that are represented here. Now, you've recently retired this set, correct? And you took it to auction, is that right?
Yeah, the last of the coins, besides a couple that I hung on to, just closed at Great Collections yesterday.
Okay. How did it do? If you don't mind asking.
Yes, no, that's a very valid question. Some wins, some losses. That's one thing I wanted to talk about. You know, when you kind of lose somebody in that community who's helping to drive a lot of these auction prices, who's now taking a step back and is in the seller's seat, it's interesting to then see who else is out there trying to put these sets together and try to acquire some of these coins. So now that you're moved somebody who is bidding these up to pretty high retail prices, now what does the market look like? So I think it was a good indicator of what people still want and what people maybe not be as hot about for the variety sets.
Yeah, it's something always to factor in and consider when thinking about what to collect. Or when people ask that question, you know, what should I collect? And the best answer to that question is whatever it is that you like. Obviously, this particular series, these Flying Eagle scents really appeal to you. As a collector, you love the design. There was a tie-in with all of the metal detecting you're doing with finding Indian head scents on your property. And so, but there is that question of, you know, from a financial perspective, an investment perspective, what should I collect? What will do well in the long run? And if your particular interests and pursuits are too specific, then you have to think about, well, how many other people are really collecting this particular thing? And when there's an auction and people get together to bid up the value of this thing, if I were not to be on the bidding side, if I were to be on the selling side, then are there going to be enough kind of other participants to help keep the prices to be really strong and really high? And something kind of to always keep in mind, especially when you get into the really, really high-end coins, the $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 coins, $1 million coins, there's a possibility that coin reached that level because yourself and this other person wanted that coin that badly, and you kind of kept competing and going back and forth, back and forth. So when it comes time for you to liquidate that, and if you're not there at the auction table, you know, the question is, you know, who else is going to be there? And for some series, there's plenty of participants and willing people that want to get a chance to acquire that. So I digressed a little bit. I don't want to steal the thunder here of talking about specifically your set, but it's one of the things to be always thinking about from an investment perspective, market perspective, about selling strategies, kind of that component. So talking about the set composition, I'd love to take a quick look. So for your set specifically, so there was 20 coins that made up the set. You have various weightings here based upon, I'm assuming, the rarity of the particular coin. So walk me through what I'm looking at, because the coin was only produced for 3 years, 56, 57, and 58. And the 56 was mostly a proof issue, but there were some business strikes. Is that right?
Yeah, there is a few varieties that are recognized as business strikes. There's a few others, too, that are recognized by Rick Snow that PCGS doesn't recognize yet. So there is a business strike for the 1856, and as we can see, that is the highest weighted coin of the entire set, because that coin alone, you know, outpriced the entirety of the set together. So that one definitely has the highest rating there. And then we can see some other strong weighted ones. We have the 1857 S7, and we have the 1858 over 7 S1 is your next highest up for weightings.
Okay. And so what am I looking at with these FS 403 S7? Is that a die marriage? Is that correct, or a special variety? Yeah.
Yeah, those are the FS numbers are relating to the variety numbers. For the 402, 403s, those are going to be the die clashes we can jump into later. But commonly with Flying Eagle scents and Indian scents, most people readily refer to them by their snow number off of Rick Snow's catalogs. That's where we'll see the S1, S2, S3, etc. So that's usually in that community the quicker identifier versus some of the other cataloging systems.
Yeah, and so are the varieties tied to the dyes that were used to produce those coins? So all of these different varieties basically are the breadth of the dyes that were used to produce them?
Yes. So yeah, all the S varieties are going to be different dye varieties for that respective year. For example, you can have an 1858 S1, you can have an 1857 S1. Those are both different varieties. So yeah, so they're year specific as well. So
yeah. Got it. So, I mean, so what we're talking about here, folks, is that through the course of minting coins, especially something like pennies, cents, there were millions and millions of them made in order to produce, support commerce. So as they're making all of these coins, as you'd imagine, the die starts to break down and they eventually need to get another die. So every one of those dies are going to have certain diagnostics, certain characteristics that are slightly, just ever so slightly different from one die to the next die to the next die. So when somebody's trying to collect something like Flying Eagle cents here, and they have, like, let's say they have a bucket of them, of 100 of them that they've kind of compiled, which is a lot for Flying Eagle cents, but just bear with me for a second. And they have this bucket of 100 of them, and they're looking through them. They may notice that there's particular differences between the exact design from one 1857 to another 1857. They notice that there's something slightly different about this one, and then they find another one that has that unique kind of characteristic. This is a way to kind of catalog or all the different varieties of those dies that were used to produce the coins. Did I get that right?
Yep, that sounds an excellent explanation.
Okay, so we'll talk here about your particular set, and we'll go into Dannehl's Eagles. So cool that these guys get to kind of compete. And what are we looking at in terms of, you have the GPA with top bonuses, GPA weighted. Does this stand for a grade point average? Is that the same?
Yeah, so kind of like a school GPA. What it does is it's based off the grade of the coin. So obviously a perfect GPA set would be at 70. I mean, that's impossible for Flying Eagle cents, obviously. Nothing, I believe, goes above a 66. However, so what they do is they'll mix the weighting of the coin with the respective grade. So, for example, how we looked at earlier, the 1856 Flying Eagle cent had a weight of 6. So the higher grade you could get that coin, the more impact it has on your overall GPA, versus some of the coins have a rating of 1. You know, you're just common 1857 Flying Eagle cent with no varieties, a pretty common coin to get. So really then you're just shooting for a higher grade. But really you want to put the emphasis on the high grade on the coins with the highest weighting, so you can affect your GPA. Yeah.
Okay. So we have a listing here of your coins, and it looks like just from a pure grading perspective, I mean, it looks like you had a couple MS64s, MS64 with a CAC sticker for the 1857. Is this a particular a special variety, or was this basically the standard 1857 that, you know, myself I might put in my inventory, or the one that's most available?
That specific one right there, that one is actually one of the 3 mule die clashes. So the Flying Eagle cent variety is kind of broken down, I'd say, into 3 major varieties. You have your mule die clashes, which are going to be the most prominent and I think visually impressive of the varieties. You have multiple double die obverses, and you also have some repunch dates. So those are going to be the main varieties that PCGS recognizes for this specific variety set. So this specific example is a really interesting one. This is a mule obverse die clash with a seeded $half. So what happened was, back in 1857, a normal die clash, it's when the obverse and the reverse of the dies strike together without a coin in between, leaving an imprint on each respective die. However, somehow, there's been some speculation on how, but the obverse die of a seeded $half clashed against the obverse die of the 1857 Flying Eagle cent. So what this does now is leaves the imprint of a seeded Liberty $half onto this Flying Eagle cent. And we can see here at first glance, there's some stuff going on. Most prominently, you'll see through the A to A on America, there's a line running through the RICA there.
Yeah,
that's going to be
right
Lady
here.
Liberty's arm. Yep. And then you'll see some lines coming off the Eagle's most forwardmost wing, and that's part of the I believe the flag that she's holding up there as well. But yeah, especially in
right
hand
here.
in a mint state example, yeah, you could see kind of the characteristics of a die clash, but obviously one that doesn't, correspond to its normal reverse die.
Interesting. Okay, so just to recap real quick. So die clashes, this happens a lot in coins, and you'll find them through almost every single series. Is if there was no planchet, if there was no blank that was within the press when the 2 dies came together to strike the coin, the dies essentially struck one another. And so the image or the design on the obverse die on the front of the coin would wind up imprinted on the die from the reverse of the coin, and vice versa. So very well possible you're looking at a cap bust $half, and you start to see like, doesn't it look like kind of the shield from the reverse side of this thing? That's a die clash. They're really interesting. They're really kind of cool. And I recently got a phone call from a gentleman who was saying that he had a Lincoln cent where Lincoln was on both sides of the coin, and he thought that he just really, really struck it rich, really struck it big. And it was like a 1972 or something Lincoln cent. I took a look at it, and it was just an obvious die clash that occurred. All right, so super interesting, super cool. You mentioned a second ago about mules, and that would be, this is an example of a mule die clash because the mule aspect is that it comes from two different series, right?
Correct. Yeah, similar, like if you had a mule coin where it had like the obverse of a dime, reverse of a cent, that's referred to as a mule. These are mule die clashes where you have two completely different host dies that should have never come into contact with each other, somehow ended up striking each other. And I believe there's 6 different mule coins that exist, 3 of which are on the Flying Eagle cents. One of them, actually, you could still find the mirror of there. So for the Flying Eagle cents, we have the one shown here that is die clashed with the seated $half. We have a reverse die clash with a seated quarter. And for the seated quarter series, you can actually find the corresponding die clashed seated quarter, which is a very cool coin. And then the sort of king of the series for the Flying Eagle cents is the obverse die clash with a $20 gold piece. And that one's the most visually striking with Lady Liberty's face on the obverse of the Flying Eagle.
And so do you have one of those?
I do. That is the one coin I did not sell off with my set as well. That one's staying with me for quite some time.
Okay. So let's get back and let's see if we can find this thing here. So which one would that be?
That would be the S7 for the 1857. It's also the highest weighted 1857 for the series. If we go down a little bit more, it should be with the other,
one
that one right there. Yep.
Exceedingly rare and high grades. Okay, perfect. Let's take a look.
Yeah, I believe the highest grade in existence for that coin is an AU58 example. And then there's, I think, a couple of XF40s, and then it's kind of just falls off very quickly from there.
All right, so where am I looking to start to find the die clashes?
Yeah, so this one, I'd say out of all the die clashes, is definitely the most dramatic and visually striking. Right away, off the eagle's beak, you can see Lady Liberty's hair curl coming down there. And if we look at America on the right hand of the coin, you could see Lady Liberty's chin coming off the tail of the eagle's feathers, and you could see her lips coming up after that as well. And then her nose is kind of running through the M in America. And PCGS has a really good composite image they posted too, showing the overlay of the $20 gold coin and how it would have looked and been struck.
Okay, I'm definitely going to try to find a copy of that image and try to kind of bring it up on the screen right here for folks to take a look at that. So this is super weird. So we're talking about a die for a $20 gold piece, a Liberty head, $20 double eagle. The die for that somehow clashed with this Flying Eagle cent die, which is, I mean, one's a large coin, one's a fairly very small coin, the size of a penny. Any speculation, any possible ideas of how that could occur?
Yeah, so the original theory that was discussed was someone at the mint had created these errors intentionally because you had 3 right away from 1857, all involving the 1857 Flying Eagle cent. So there was a theory about someone at the mint in the middle of the night running around and doing things they shouldn't. I think kind of similar to the stories of the 1804 drape bust dollar, I think it was, that there was some counterfeit ones made or or not, ones that weren't supposed to be getting out. So I think they kind of attributed, they thought it might have been the same person. However, people are starting to come to the realization that it might have been just during normal routine die changes while swapping out the dies. One could have been left in and then accidentally struck the other. I'm not as familiar with the actual minting process and how they rotated and swapped the dies, but that has kind of been the new widely accepted story of these were just a genuine accidental creation, which I think is a little bit more interesting than an intentional creation.
Yeah.
But either way.
I kind of like the idea. I kind of like the story of there being like, Moonshine Mondays and the people at the mint hung out and they drank quite a bit and they just made stuff. I don't know.
That would have been fun. Yeah. Who knows what else is out there waiting to be found.
Yeah, exactly. And you remind me of something that I've never been able to really identify or confirm, which was that it was not uncommon for the mint to create fantasy pieces for people, for collectors who came back and said, hey, I really wanted a gold brick dollar and I can't find one today. So I think like, years later, they did make additional like kind of copies or restrikes of that for collectors. Have you ever heard that before?
I know there is some restrike coins, like with some of the different large cents. You'll see like a PCGS holder and it'll say a restrike, and they have different die characteristics, and some of them aren't as advanced. My real bread and butter and focus is on the Flying Eagle cents. So I know there is some stuff, I believe, that out there, but it's really not my expertise. So I'm sure someone else would be able to weigh in a little bit more on. That'd be a whole fun series to jump into. Is just things like that.
So would you say this one that we're looking at right now was one of the hardest ones for you to obtain and find?
Yeah, so I've been very fortunate to cherry pick some of these in low grades in the past, just because it's a little easier to see in low grades, but it can also be harder to catch at the same time. But this is definitely the hardest coin to find in high grades, just because the absolute highest one there is an AU58 example. I don't believe there's any other AU examples. Then it goes, I believe there's an XF45, maybe some slightly higher VFs I've seen, but for the most part, you will be very hard pressed to find one of these on the market, anything above maybe AG to G. Those can come up every now and then, and the market has just been really crazy on these pieces as well. PCGS recently published an article I wrote about these pieces and how they've just been really performing well. So this is the coin that I'm holding on to. Yes, I did write that recent article on these.
That's cool. Do you remember when that was published?
I believe early May is when that, or late May was just published. So it was a pretty recent one.
That's super cool. That's super cool. So Jade mentioned a word at the beginning there, cherry pick. And this is one of the fun aspects of the hobby. This is one of the aspects that can lead to profits for those that know exactly what they're doing. And cherry picking basically is that you look through lots and lots and lots of coins. You go to coin shows, you look through kind of inventory, you look through raw coins. Is usually a great place to cherry pick coins. Something like this, this 1857, this is just a standard Flying Eagle, not caring about the variety at all, just a 57 Flying Eagle in this low of a grade. What is it? Probably a $20 coin, $40 coin?
Yeah, this coin, this one is graded VF20. If you had it in a PCGS holder, maybe $100, but really you can find a coin like this for $20 to $40 if it was no variety. Versus with the variety, I think I paid well over $2,000 for this coin, and it had previously even sold before for $3,000 before that.
Yeah. Yeah, so all you people that are calling me about those 1972 Lincoln cents with the special variety you read about on the internet article, you don't have that one. But what you can do is you can go to a coin show, you can look through all of these old 1857 Flying Eagles that are in low grade that you can buy for $20 or $40 or whatever the amount was, and you can cherry pick the one that is the special variety, and then you can sell it potentially for, it sounds like Jadon paid over $2,000 for this particular variety. So that is an actual, business model or a strategy, not anyway, I get too many of those phone calls. So it is one of the downsides of publishing your number and calling yourself a coin dealer is you get a lot of those types of calls. But anyways, so I digress. Let's get back to more of your set here. So if we're talking about other coins that are kind of the real cream of the crop, or I should say the real highlights of this registry set, what else would you say? I mean, that one was really, really cool. What else would be another one that was a real highlight?
Yeah, so we can just start with the two ones that I kept because I like that. The S7 was one of the ones I kept. And then if we go to the 1858 Mint State 64 down below at the bottom there, let's see. Oh,
this one here, the large letters?
Yep, that one there.
Okay.
So that was probably that's the only other coin that I actually kept from this entire set. So this coin by itself, is just a normal high-grade Mint State Flying Eagle cent. It doesn't have a high rating because you can find an 1858 large letters Flying Eagle cent pretty readily. However, this coin in particular has such impressive toning that I'd be really hard-pressed to find another one nearly this nice. I want to thank Eric Lindholm. He was the one that sold me this coin, I believe, about a year ago. He's been pretty instrumental on getting me a lot of these Flying Eagle cents. and
Yeah.
he's a Sublime Sense, I think he is. And
Yeah,
yeah,
Sublime
great
Sense.
guy. He has been really good on, pointing deals out my way, helping me find some stuff for the set. And yeah, so this one
That's
came from
great.
him. And Tone Flying Eagle Scents, if people don't know, are exceedingly rare. They almost never come to market, and when they do exceptionally well. So I was really happy to get this one in a auction house setting. Otherwise, you never really know what the prices could be. But this one has some really nice orange and purple on the reverse, kind of that sunset toning. And the
Yeah.
obverse has got some really bright oranges. So, if
Yeah.
it didn't have this color, it would just be your typical high-grade Flying Eagle scent. This one is also CAC certified. Um, if you want to talk a little bit about that, not everybody might not know what CAC stickering is and how that process works.
Well, yeah, we just did an episode about CAC stickering, but just as a short review. So this coin is an MS64 according to PCGS. There's a lot of coins that can be graded MS64 because, there is a spectrum in terms of the quality at the MS64 grade. CAC exists in order to basically certify those coins that they believe are on the higher spectrum, on the upper end of quality for the stated grade. So this particular coin, this is an MS64, and they've put their CAC sticker on the slab, on the plastic slab of the coin, basically to say that this is, in their opinion, one of the premium examples for an MS64 grade. So then they typically bring a higher price and premium within the marketplace. So this kind of relates to a question I wanted to ask you about strategy and approach with building a collection like this. What was your kind of your strategy about finding these coins? Did you have like a plan per se? Or was it a little bit more opportunistic? Did you just kind of start going to shows, and when you saw a particular variety, you grabbed it? I mean, you got 20 coins, you got a lot of different varieties. It would be hard for me to keep in my head like, oh, I've got that one, I don't have this one. So what was your approach like in finding these?
Yeah, this is definitely a really hard series to put together. If enough people had the drive to do it, you wouldn't be able to get them all, because some of the populations are as low as 8 for some of the graded coins. There's a couple of the double dies where there's 8 coins, and if all 8 are in collectors' hands and don't come to the market, there's no way to get it other than an occasional raw cherry pick, which was my initial start off in this series, is kind of going through Flying Eagles, finding some of these varieties raw, getting them graded, and then putting them into the set. So initially they weren't high grade purchase pieces, but as I started to get really more interested in it, then I started being willing to pay for already found varieties. So really, just because of how obscure some of these are and difficult to find, I heavily relied on online sales and auction houses. I constantly have alerts for Heritage, Great Collections, all the major coin auction companies. So I routinely put keyword triggers on there for different snow varieties. And then, so it's one of those sets is if you had all the money in the world and you said, I'm going to buy this set, it would still probably take you a year or more of just waiting for some of these to come to market. And if they don't, then you can't put the set together, just because some of the populations are that low and that scarce.
And it sounds like you also collaborated and you worked with a dealer like Eric, for example, who helped find some of these coins for you, which is, obviously a really great strategy for anybody out there trying to build an incredible, collection. Reaching out and working with a trusted dealer and somebody that has a good eye and knows exactly what you're looking for and so forth, is a big part of that. Let me ask you, we're looking at this set here. We're going to go back, and I apologize. My internet's a little bit slow while we're doing this recording, so that's why it's taking so long to load. But if there's any of these, which of these did you have the biggest win in terms of it being like a cherry pick situation where you just happen to stumble upon this really rare variety, looking through low grade Flying Eagle scents, and then you end up stumbling upon a really kind of a high end variety for the sake of your collection?
Yeah, cherry picking the mint state ones are definitely a little bit more difficult to do because some of the premiums can be a lot higher and they are a little bit easier to recognize. For the F7, the die clash we looked at, that is one I did purchase. However, that is one that I've been able to cherry pick and put into some other people's sets. So I believe some of the other Flying Eagle sets that are registered have some of the coins that I cherry picked, graded, and then ended up reselling as I've upgraded the set and replaced things. However, probably my most exciting cherry pick, if we scroll down to the 1858/7, as that is one of
Okay.
the king of the
This one right
series.
here, the
Yes.
strong.
Yep, the strong. Yeah, so this is the most exciting one that I've been able to cherry pick. And fortunately, I've been able to cherry pick a few of these. There's a few different die characteristics that identify an 1858/7.
Okay.
However, most collectors want what's referred to as the 1858/7 strong because there's a late die state of this coin where the overdate isn't very apparent. So the key characteristics for identifying an 1858/7, the quickest thing I look to is actually not even at the date, it's at the wing. We can see the overdate on the 8 there, but if we look up towards the wing, we can see there is a broken wingtip. It is cut off towards the top there, so you can see it's not all the way complete. You can see the field starting to peek through on the wingtip. So that's actually a very common hub variety. Many of the different die varieties will share a broken wingtip. So that's usually a quick identifier when looking through the Flying Eagle scent series of there might be a potential variety here if you see a broken wingtip. And I believe on 1858 large letters, if it has a broken wingtip, I don't think there's one that isn't an 1858/7. However, it might be a late die state where you can't see the overdate, and then the values kind of can plummet pretty quickly because most collectors, they want to see, if we look at the 8 there, coming off the top right of the 8, you can see that little line coming up in the field
right
there.
here?
Yep, that is the overdate. So that's going to be the remnant of the 7 there. So this is the
No kidding.
1858/7. So this is the most sought after variety for the 1858 year, I would say. And they are pretty difficult to track down in high grades. In your mint state grades, they're going for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 on some of the really nice ones. Finding this coin, even if I were to try to get AU, I would still be several thousands dollars versus, this coin graded, I believe this was VF30 CAC and photo sealed.
Yeah.
This one, I think I probably paid $20-$40 for. So, and I've been able to find multiple of these. So these are my favorite ones to cherry pick. And this is where the money can be found, is finding
Is this one of the ones that sold at the auctions?
This one, actually, I was going to hang on to it and keep it just because it's a CAC coin as well. And it was a nice grade. Eric is taking this one off my hand, so he's going to be getting this one. So I'm sending a couple coins his way. So this one I was sad to let go, but I'm keeping the better ones of the series that I like. But still a nice coin. Someone's going to really appreciate this one.
Well, it's going to a good home. I like Eric quite a bit. We celebrated his birthday at the ANA at the grading seminar, at the summer seminar in Colorado Springs. It was his birthday, and a few of us took him out to dinner. And he's a great guy, really great guy. I like him a lot. Let's go back here to the collection. Let me ask you this question. Have you ever sold one of these coins or sold a coin you loved, but because it didn't quite fit your set goals? So, you were building the set, you had a duplicate, or you had a coin that didn't really fit into this particular at all, but you loved the coin, but you still just got rid of it because you were, wanting to put your money towards the other ones or whatever.
Yeah, that's an absolutely great question. So one of the first coins we looked at was that Mint State 64 Obverse Die Clash with the seeded $50.
Okay.
That one in Mint State 64. Right, yes. So prior to that, I could get you a picture and we can put a picture up, but I had a really nice VF30 or 35, I can't quite remember, CAC, photo sealed, just nice, perfect brown, low grade coin. It wasn't very expensive, but it just had that perfect eye appeal that you want to see from some of your lower end coins. And that coin, I didn't really want to sell it, but because I could get a mint state example like this coin here and really boost the set rating, and that this was actually the coin that pushed me to that top 5 spot. So that was one of the reasons where I really drove for this coin, because it's a die clash. It has a good weighting, and it was a available mint state coin for not a crazy premium compared to some of the other coins in mint state. So this is one of the ones that I believe I won this at Stack Bowers, and this is what pushed me to that top 5 set. So I sold a VF coin that I took out of the set. It fit the set, but it didn't fit it to be a competitive set, because to be a competitive set with these Flying Eagles, you need almost everything in mint state, with the exception of the coins that just don't exist in mint state. So this was one of the coins that I upgraded that I really wish I would have kept it, but it went to a good home of a person who actually almost all of my duplicate coins, or as I've upgraded, he's taken a lot of the lower end ones that are a lot more affordable. He hasn't had a registry yet, but I'm hoping to get him started into one. So where I'll see a lot of my old coins eventually probably come back into the registry at some point.
Nice. I got a great I got a great question here that I found here for you on this one. So, have you formed friendships or rivalries through registry set competition?
Unfortunately, not much for face-to-face rivalries and friendships. I've had some nice messages from some of the people on here, but as you can see, there's not a ton of people competing on the Flying Eagle variety sets as much. It's one of those ones there will be the competition manifests itself more so in online auctions where you start seeing things go for even above the published retail guide because someone else is trying to put together a set that they might not have published yet, or they might be kind of slowly building in the background before it becomes a published set. So that's really where the rivalry comes in, is more on the auction block type of thing. But everyone else has been very supportive. I believe one of the second highest sets there's the Screaming Eagle collection. I think he posted some nice comments in regards to my set. So everyone, for the most part, is, I feel, trying to help each other. But at the same time, when those coins do come up, people don't hold back. If they can have the opportunity to get something, they will.
Been in any scenarios or any situations you want to talk about where you were at a show or in a scenario with another registry set collector kind of going head to head for a particular coin for the set?
Yeah, nothing in person where I've encountered that, just because these coins are really hard to even find at shows. You're more likely, I feel, to come across a lot of these specific niche varieties in an online marketplace. But there's been coins I've found myself bidding up on Great Collections or Heritage, and I throw a high bid out just to start, thinking I can sit back, just wait for it to sell. No one else is going to be kind of throwing a bid towards it. And then soon enough, someone snipes it at the last second and outbids me. And I know it's probably somebody that's putting together a set as well. So I think that's really where you're going to see that, where people go head to head. Just because if I already feel myself, I'm paying, retail price for a coin, that just because as a collector, I need to have it. Then seeing someone else go and do that as well. And we can even see it through some other auction history. You can almost follow the auction history and realize when collectors for registry sets are trying to get a coin, or because some of the times you'll see one of those coins that is recognized in a registry set, and all of a sudden it way exceeds the price guide. I believe one example on Great Collections, you have an 1857 Snow 1 variety. That's the obverse of 1856. It's got the same die characteristics as a 56 we could talk about later. But it was a coin in, I think, VF20. It's probably a couple $100 coin, and end up, I think, getting close to $500. So almost doubling, its kind of published price guide value. So that was an instance where I know, hey, the person who acquired this likely was a variety set collector. And sure enough, if we look at, I believe it's Michael Hassler's set, that was one of the coins he won and put in his set. So you do see that competition bring itself up online for sure.
Yeah. In my opinion, there's nothing that helps get you out of bed in the morning as like having a nemesis. If you have somebody that you're competing with about anything, something that definitely motivates you to get out of bed in the morning is to go go compete with the nemesis. So, anyways, I'll stop goofing around here.
No arch villains, unfortunately.
What's that?
There's no villains or arch enemies, unfortunately. It's all
pretty
nice
everyone
community.
Needs one. In my opinion, everyone needs one. So you were mentioning a second ago about Michael Hassler's set. Now, did you want to mention something about Michael? Because I think you touched on it in the previous recording that we had to ditch. He recently passed away, right?
Correct. And he unfortunately recently passed away. However, I was able to acquire one of the coins in his set. So I don't think he has it registered, unfortunately. But he had an S7 there that unfortunately never quite made the inventory. Otherwise, I think he would have been bumped higher. Yeah, the one that's left empty there. Because previously, the one that I have that we touched on earlier, I won that at Great Collections. But about a year or so ago, before I purchased it, it was auctioned on Great Collections, and they tagged it the X Michael Hassler collection. And that coin ended up selling for triple its kind of published price guide value. And that's one of the things I touched on the article about how a lot of these varieties are way exceeding their published guide for the price guides and how, that should be updated. So that coin, I then ended up in Rick Snow's hands. He had it for a while, and then he put it on Great Collections. and I was fortunate enough to win it the second time around. So
Yeah.
that's probably a
Yeah.
forever coin for me, unless I can upgrade it. But again, a coin like that, almost impossible to upgrade unless one of the crazy ones comes up for auction. But almost all of those are tied up in some of the different sets here. So as
Mm-hmm.
those sets, eventually pass on to new owners, people are kind of know about these coins and are going to be ready to jump on them when they do become
Yeah.
available.
Yeah, folks. I mean, if you haven't picked up on it yet already, I mean, we're talking. I think this is a great opportunity, a great way to get into collecting in a way. And if you're like me, the whole profit kind of side to the business is really appealing and interesting. There's great opportunities here, folks, because you can go look for these Flying Eagle scents or another series for that matter. Learn what the varieties are, learn what the special varieties are that do actually really, really well and strong in our auction settings. Go seek out those varieties, cherry pick them from boxes and from display cases and whatever. I mean, we want you to come out to the shows, look through the inventories, try to find the thing that this is actually one of those rare varieties that's going to bump up somebody's set. I'm going to go and acquire this thing and I'm going to throw it into my set, or I'm going to sell it to another collector who's trying to build their set. It's just there's the big dinging lights here that should be going off for people watching this in terms of a way to get into numismatics and in a way that you can do well, and kind of take advantage of some opportunity for some profit and so forth. So what else I want to ask you? I wanted to ask you what advice before we ask these questions, you mentioned something about a particular variety that you wanted to touch on in a second. It was like the 57 over 6 or so. Just like 2 minutes ago, you mentioned.
Oh, yeah. That was a very neat variety. If we want to pull up my registry set here, or we could even look at some of the other sets as well, just to see, because they got some other nice examples. There's one coin where it's called the Obverse of 56. So it's going to be the Snow 1. I believe mine was an AU 55. Yep, that one right there. So this is one of the RPDs for the series. And this one really repunch date for those who don't know.
Repunch date, okay.
Yeah. So what's really striking about these coins is this specific variety has the same hub details and obverse details of the 1856. So it's referred to as an obverse of 1856. So with this specific variety, they're typically very well struck, and they have the same kind of lettering and the same eagle shape that the 1856 does. Most people won't be able to tell the difference in the face shape right away. I've gotten to the point, I've looked at thousands upon thousands of flying eagles. If you were to leave off the major die characteristics and I just looked at the eagle's face, I could tell you right away, oh, hey, that's an obverse of 56. It's just one of those minute things that just start to recognize right away after staring at so many of these for so long.
That's
so
great.
The real identifier for this one is going to be mainly the font choice, but in the date here, in 1857, because there's two different varieties actually for obverses of 56, which is really neat. So if you were a collector who still wanted to get something that was close to a 56, you could get an obverse of 56 S2, where it doesn't have the repunched date, but you still have the same eagle face and the still same font as a 56. So you still kind of get that look of an 1856, but it's still a 57. But for this specific example, yeah, 57 prices are nice.
Compared
to the
look
56.
At a 56 with a 57 price, folks. Anyways.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's how I advertise them when I find them and I want to turn them over to other collectors, because it's a great kind of gateway coin. So for this specific example, there's some repunching you can see in the 8 and the 5, but this is a scarce coin. This is one of the ones that went to great collection. And actually, Eric was one of the ones who won this one. So really excited for him. He's going to be acquiring this one. But I believe this one has a population of 20. I believe a Mint State 66 example recently sold for about $20,000 because they're very well struck. Yeah, for a 57 too. So this variety, about 20, I think, graded. Very difficult to come across in high grades.
I need to become a Flying Eagle scent specialist here. I mean, it sounds like there's huge opportunities.
There is huge opportunities, but they're rare to come up is the problem. So it's one of those ones you got to become an expert and you got to sit and kind of wait. So I was going to say that you don't see too many Flying Eagle scent dealers out there. So most of them are almost always coupled with Indian head scents, and they also do the Flying Eagle scents. I'm kind of that weird outlier. I love Indian cents, but I don't collect them with the same passion I do Flying Eagles. Like most people are like, oh, you're going to do Indians after Flying Eagles? Probably not. They're a great set. There's so many different varieties there too, but they just don't quite have that same appeal to me personally as the Flying Eagle Scent series does.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to know, man. It's good to know. I think I'm going to show you all my Flying Eagle scents from now on. Get your perspective on them, but you're going to know the varieties. Yeah, you're going to know the varieties, and so you're going to be like, yeah, that's just a 57, Tony. That's just a regular 57.
Well, there's some great regular 57s. If we get a chance, I'd love to show just the plain one I got in my set. And
Sounds good.
I call it plain, but
which one is that?
That is going to be the very top one there in the set.
Yeah.
Yes, that one.
Okay. The 62.
If we can pull up a picture of that one here. Just because it is a plain 62, I wanted to get something with a little bit more eye appeal.
Yeah,
so,
big time.
Yeah, as you can see on this coin, this has some wonderful rainbow toning, which is almost impossible to find on Flying Eagle scents. And when you do find it, they carry some heavy, heavy premiums. So almost every coin in my set, I tried to get a CAC sticker on it, or the Eagle Eye photo seal sticker. For those who don't know, that's Rick Snow's service, where it's sort of like CAC for if he believes that the coin meets the grading criteria, he'll put his sticker on that as well. And he also photographs the coins as well. So it's a nice way, if you don't have a coin that's been true viewed by PCGS, you can get a really nice high resolution photo of it. So this is a PCGS true view picture, obviously. But because it was just a normal 1857, most people try to fill they just try to get a really high grade example of this coin. That's where you'll see people put a mint state 65 or a 66 in.
Yeah.
You can get a 65, $3,000, a 66, you're 8 to 10 typically. But while this coin isn't a very high grade, this is a mint state 62. I could have easily put a 64 in here. However, this coin just had such great eye appeal with that rainbow toning that it really just brought a great look to the set as a whole. So this coin, I did unfortunately sell this one. It's one of the ones I was really on the fence about, but I really just wanted to see what the market looked like more than anything. So it was almost a test for me too, just kind of see how it would perform and kind of start to understand the market for tone flyers.
Yeah, I mean,
in an auction style setting.
Sometimes with coins, it's not all about the grade. It's not all about the numerical grade on the slab. Eye appeal and other characteristics that make a coin special can also be extremely important for having a place in a collector's heart. I recently sold a Cap Bust Half. It was featured in my previous episode, in E55, and I thought that coin was just really, really nice and special. I'm continuing to think about it after it's already in the mail to the collector who bought it from me. But stuff like that. It's not the highest graded coin. It's not the most expensive coin that I've ever transacted and owned. But it was a very, very nice coin. So, what advice would you give someone who's thinking about starting their first registry set?
I would say if you're just getting started out, buy what you like and what you would be proud to display. So the big point, at least that draws me to registry set, is this is now a public viewing of my collection. That was one of the things that really drew me to it, is finding coins that had great photos already was it huge. Like, PCS true views on those is it different. No one wants to look at your registry set with no pictures, So find coins you like, find coins with good photographs. If it isn't photographed, you can get it reholdered and photographed. PCGS is really good about that for really inexpensive. I do that a lot for other people, where I'll send them older slabs to go get rephotoed. But really get stuff that you enjoy looking at the end of the day. I mean, this is going to be for your set. Focus on the competition part later. There's stuff I know I've replaced that I probably even liked better, even though it was less money, but just for the competition side of things. But if you're just getting started, just get what you like, and really I'd say focus on stuff you'd be proud to show other people, because really that's what your registry set, I feel, is for, is competing and showing off the hard work you've put into something.
Yeah, I think it's a really fair point. If you would like to display your collection, this is a fantastic way for you to do so. You're going to have your name or some kind of a moniker or whatever that is associated with your particular set. You get a chance to, of course, compete, and everyone can see what the grade of the examples are that you acquired for your particular set. but then you also get to display your set publicly for anybody that wants to go and look and see this is the stuff that Jadon found and put together and acquired and traded and whatever that he put together. So pick a particular series that you feel really passionate about, but also one that you would love to pursue this type of pursuit for. You'd like to pursue this type of thing to do with from a collecting perspective. Do you see yourself expanding into other sets once this set is complete? Well, you retired the set. The set went to auction, with the exception of a few items. Do you see yourself expanding into other sets? What's next for you as a collector?
Yeah, I've always been a little bit all over the place as a collector. Most people knew me previously as collecting a lot of counterstamp tokens, as collecting a lot of unique things, and that's really what I would like. I do kind of want to go back into just more type stuff again and not be as limited. Not limited might not be the best choice of words, but just feel like I'm free to open and just buy other unique coins when I see them.
Yeah.
One of the downsides about a registry, especially if you're someone who's working on a budget, is if you throw kind of all your funds just to work on the registry, when you see some other really nice coins come up for sale, just to tell myself I shouldn't purchase that right now because I have a focused thing I'm doing. That's kind of one of the things I missed. So for example, there's been some really nice flowing hair dollars and half dollars I've seen come up for sale. That's one of the dream coins I would love to own. I've had some low grade half dollars in the past, but I haven't had anything, like a really nice, like VF20 CAC flowing hair dollar, I think would be like a dream coin. So it's one of those ones that's, after liquidating the set, I now have that flexibility where if I see stuff that just catches my eye, I have that opportunity to pick it up. So that's probably where I see myself for collecting now, is kind of just waiting to find those coins that just have that eye appeal, kind of like on that cap you were talking about. Just every now and then you'll see a coin. It doesn't have to be a high grade, that just is really striking visually. And it's coins like that I think you're going to start seeing people really go after. It's not going to be necessarily the grade on the holder, but it's going to be just, how does the coin speak to you? How does it look? And so that's really where I want to just is have that flexibility again. But we will see. I got a wedding coming up, so I'm sure some of the funds will be appropriated to that.
Your wedding, I'm assuming.
Correct. Yes.
Correct. Well, congratulations.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
I specialize in offering liquidity to people who need money at the last. So if you want to sell any coins, reach out to me. But how do you think registry set building will evolve over the next 10 to 20 years? And so I guess what I want to ask with this particular question is, as you've pursued building registry set, are there some things that you would offer as feedback to PCGS, or that you'd like to see changes take place within this registry set thing, moving forward? Do you have any feedback? And then secondarily, just how do you see, forward looking next 10, 20 years? How do you see this whole thing evolving with what we do here?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I really would like to see it is just get a little bit more attention. I feel like registry sets are kind of often overlooked, and I think it provides the ability for people not only to showcase their collection, but to then network with other high-end collectors who can then help people. So I'm along the younger side of collecting. Some of the people with the highest rating sets, they've been at this, 30, 40 years, longer than I've been alive. So I would like to see it used as a way to kind of build up the community, to start encouraging some of these younger collectors to start putting together some of these, future legacy collections that are going to be very noteworthy and famous in the future, kind of as a gateway to that. So I would like to see it get a little bit more attention and evolve as a way to kind of bridge between those two people, because you don't necessarily have to be an older person with tons of money to build a high rated set. So, I was fortunate enough to hit top 5, and that was while, going to school for engineering, being pretty broke, but by knowing what to look for and flipping things here and there, was able to do that. So, but if there was a way, I could have used the registry set to help network more with some of these older collectors who, as they upgrade their sets, might be able to pass down some of the things too. I think that would be an extremely helpful direction to go.
Yeah. And obviously for folks that want to network a bit, Instagram is a great place for it to do that. And so speaking of, where can people, if they want to connect with you, they want to ask your opinion, advice about building their registry set, or talk about in Flying Eagle scents specifically, how can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the great things actually about the PCGS registry set is your email can be tagged on there, and there's a link, I believe, to contact people. I know it's somewhere on there when you open up, like, yeah, you can see the email icon, like say, like next to Docs Eagles there, there's an email,
Okay.
you know, so it doesn't look like mine's published. But if you want to find me specifically, I'm on Instagram, Dannehl's Coins. I'm on Facebook just as Jadon Dannehl, my name on the screen there.
Yeah.
So that's a great way to get a hold of me. I'm always really happy to answer people's questions about flying eagles. Most people now, they see a flying eagle, they tag me on it, they send me stuff all the time. So it's been nice to be able to do that. And then kind of touching back to the registry sets, one of the other really nice things about it is to kind of get some, not accreditation, but just kind of some validity of yourself as a collector. Like, and people kind of start to respect you a little bit more and realize this person knows what they talk about. You have some credibility when you answer some questions if people ask you about, flying eagles, because they said, well, if you put together one of the highest rated sets, you likely know what you're looking for to just be able to do that. So that has been one of the nice things, to kind of be taken a little bit more seriously in the community as a collector and, sometimes buyer and seller, but really just a collector at heart. So that's definitely, I think, one of the most rewarding things for me is just to kind of be brought into the community a little bit more seriously, and kind of even taken myself a little bit more seriously about how I go about collecting coins and buying and selling with other people as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, man, I mean, I think your expertise is shining right through. It's been fantastic talking to you. For our collectors out there, the people that are still watching the video at this point, what I would love you guys to do is obviously to like, share, subscribe, do all those types of things. But also comment below. Tell us if you guys have a registry set. Mark it in the comments below. Tell people how they can find your registry set, how they can go and search your particular thing, or just comment, what is it, a set that you'd like to be able to build one day? What interests you the most? What is a series that you're in process currently of building for the PCGS registry? That would certainly be something that I would be interested in. I'm sure Jadon as well to take a look in the comments later on. So, hey man, thank you so much for doing this. I hope to connect with you again in the future. Do you go to any major shows? Can I look forward to running into you at all?
For the most part, my presence has been online, just finishing up school for engineering. The budget to travel to shows just hasn't been there. But once the wedding stuff calms down, I'm really hoping to be full force, starting to go to some of the shows, meet all the people I've been communicating with online for, the last decade. So I can't wait to start putting faces to names and getting more involved. So I definitely won't be going, even though the set's retiring, I'm not going anywhere.
Awesome. All right, man. Again, have a good one. And if I don't talk to you, happy wedding. What do they say? I guess congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, man. Sounds good. I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
All right. Sounds good. Talk to you later.